the queen of rock and roll clothing.
She's one of my favorite designers, so I always think she's got unique designs, and I wanted to see what she was doing this year.
Anna Sui is about fun. I mean, I really think that there's an element of not taking things too seriously and experimenting and having fun with fashion.
Fashion needs wit. Fashion needs energy. Fashion needs a personality. And Anna got it.
This uber cool New Yorker isn't actually a native. In fact, she grew up in a city better known for its cars than its fashion. You grew up in Michigan, and then you decided to follow your dream. You go to Parsons, you come to New York. Was it love at first sight when you came to New York?
I was 4 years old. I started talking about being a fashion designer. I was a flower girl at my uncle's wedding when I was 5, and I remember driving around the streets of New York and saying to my parents, when I grow up, I'm going to live here.
She's very eclectic, and because of her interest in many different cultures, she somehow puts it all together, and it looks wonderful. I knew that she had an interest when she was 5 years old. All through the years, she's come to visit us, and she's made Barbie doll clothes, for her cousins, crocheting them, sewing them, all of the latest fashion. And I still treasure those.
And I think part of it was possible because my parents were so global. I mean, they grew up in China, they were educated in Europe, and they moved to the United States.
Chic, rocker gal chic. Do you think those are fair assessments of what you do?
Yeah, I think that there's certain catchphrases that really apply. And one of the ones that everyone always says is that they're whimsical. And I think that that's really important, that there's always a sense of humor behind what I'm doing. There's always a wink. And I think that the whole rock and roll influence is so important to me because I love music and I'm very inspired by rock music.
I love the rock and roll bohemian look with a combination of kind of a mix of vintage, adding a little bit of leather or fur.
I really only wanted to dress rock stars or people that went to rock concerts. Like, that was what I had in my mind. I think that having these certain catchphrases and always thinking about them as I'm developing all my products helps keep the focus on the look of Anna Sui and the world of Anna Sui, and that's kind of what's made my brand work.
Every collection that I work on, I always think, is this cool enough to wear to a rock concert? Would a rock star wear this? For the rock and roll look, you have your Hall of Fame. There's Anita Pallenberg, Debbie Harry, Stevie Nicks.
My eyes are open wide. By the way, I made it through the day.
Again, out of innocence, I had these friends that I thought were so cool, and they used to sell jewelry at the boutique show. So I thought, oh, I want to go to the boutique. Well, I met Stephen at Parsons, and for about a year, I styled with him. Just that exposure opened doors for me and made me realize that I could work anywhere. So I did 5 pieces and had the back wall of the booth, and I was picked up by Macy's and Bloomingdale's, and Macy's ran a full-page New York Times ad with my clothes. And I was still working for another company at the time, and I got called into the office by the owner of the company, and he said, how can you have your own ad when you're on my payroll? That was my choice, that I didn't really want to answer to anyone. I didn't really want to have a boss. And each time when there were offers of partnership or buying me out or producing in other countries, it just wasn't what I wanted. I guess I wanted the control. I wanted to be able to do what I wanted and do what I love. Madonna was what gave me the confidence to do a fashion show. I went to the Paris collections for the first time with Steven Meisel, and we stopped by the Ritz and picked up Madonna on the way to the Jean-Paul Gaultier show. And she came out of her room with a coat on, and throughout her room it was filled with bags and racks of designer clothes from every major designer. And once we got to the show, she took off her coat and she said, Anna, I have a surprise for you. And she was wearing my dress. Suddenly I was like shipping all these things to Paris, to the point where I heard Carl was saying, like, Anna, who's this Anna? Like, why are you all wearing these clothes? So that was something that gave me the confidence to do my own show. I like to transport my audience. I like to take them on a trip or a vacation or to another time, another place. And I think the music adds to the atmosphere. So it's almost like putting together a soundtrack for a movie so that you really create an atmosphere. And one of the things that I think is so important is that a show is a show. And I want to entertain people too. So I think that all of that is really thought about as I'm putting all the components together.
Anna's show is always very exciting. She's always got great songs and a great soundtrack for the show, so it's kind of exciting to be a part of her show and be a part of the new collection and see what the clothes are like before they actually hit the stores.
I love the way she dresses, her sense of style. It's funky, it's young, it's sexy, and it's elegant. It's everything. Anna's clothes transcend a powerful image of her, and that's what's great. She always sticks to what she does best, and I love that.
A friend of mine, Zach Carr, said, I have a vision for you. You have to have your own boutique. That's what's going to make everyone understand where you're coming from. And the very next day I walked down to Soho, and this is when Soho was not really happening anymore. And I found this great space, and I just visualized this whole store. I think one of the things about my personality is when I'm excited about something, I want everybody else to be too. So that's kind of what I'm always trying to do. It's like if I discover something that I think is so amazing, I want everyone else to be amazed. I have incredible discipline. I really like technique, and I really like craftsmanship. So there's always those two sides like fighting against each other. I like practicality, I like comfort, and I do like classic too, but I like it with a twist. It's always difficult to say when you actually get the idea for a collection, but usually when the calendar tells you that you have 2 months before the fashion show, you decide very quickly what your inspiration is. And then as I'm working on putting looks together, I keep looking at those pictures and thinking, is this my original idea? Is this what I was trying to accomplish? The first thing I do is I put up my inspiration up on these boards. And there's 4 different boards because they represent 4 different deliveries. And then I start just pinning my favorite fabrics up on the wall. And little by little, I kind of shift them around and start deciding on what the color story is going to be.
She has a lot of different moods and styles. I think she's very eclectic in the way that she does things, and I think her fabrics are kind of beautiful.
When I'm working on a collection, there's always that selfish moment where it's like, okay, now what am I going to wear? So you kind of design yourself the ideal thing, something that you think will fall into the theme, but something that will just be perfect for you. Everything that I love, somehow I can incorporate it into my work, and somehow that's what inspires me. So I'm fortunate enough to be able to meet people and dress people. It's kind of, again, what I always dreamed about. They're very signature Anna Sui pieces. They're fun to wear, but then they're also very comfortable, which I think is one of the reasons why people like wearing Anna Sui dresses. The attractions of my new fragrances is that they're just as casual as the fashion is now. Like fragrances we've been doing, they work. They're fresh. They're kind of fruity, they kind of sparkle. It's a different dimension. You're so used to putting fabric around a form, a shape, and suddenly you're dealing with something flat. Mm-hmm. And it was something that I really had to think about. I really believe every designer has their time, and it's not under your control to make it all work with it. And so hopefully it's still the right time. I think I have the best job in the world because I can use everything that I'm interested in, anything I'm obsessed with, in love with, curious about, I can put it in my work. And you can see from my inspiration boards that there's that thought process. Every collection, I always put up the inspiration behind the collection, which kind of dictates to me what journey I'm trying to take my audience on, but also like all the color.